Yo, this is Teresa Weatherspoon, better known as Teaspoon, and you're watching Real Fans, Real Talk.
Live from the can. Vibe you can.
This is Real Fans, Real Talk. Real fans, real talk. We as real as you thought. Real fans.
What's going on? Welcome to another live edition of Real Fans, Real Talk. We got a big weekend in the sports world. We're gonna talk about it. We got a lot to talk about today, Eric. So let me just jump right in. Let me introduce my co-host, Eric Sanchez, aka Legend in Two Games. What's going on, man?
What's really good, bro? You know, it's Victory Monday. A lot to celebrate after this weekend. Tickets were great. Football was great. We got John Jones. We got some boxing. It was a packed weekend in basketball. So we got a lot to get into, man.
No, that's a fact, man. Where should we start? Should we start with boxing? Because I just feel like we need to just get this out the way right now, man.
Let's get to it.
This Jake Paul, Mike Tyson fight went down this weekend. I'm gonna say this, Eric. From the jump before, once I seen Mike walking down the aisle with the knee brace on, I just every part of me that wanted to have some hope and faith in Mike to win this thing, it was just like, yo, what? Like, I don't think I've ever seen a fighter come to the ring with a knee brace on before.
Yeah.
It didn't make sense. It didn't make sense to me. It threw my whole equilibrium off. And it just went left really fast. Obviously, you know what I'm saying, Jake Paul, he did what he does. But I after a while, like midway through the fourth, I started feeling nervous for Mike because I just felt like I felt more so that he on just the age was going to take effect. I wasn't even really worried about Jake Paul hitting him and knocking him out. I was just worried about the age really and him just falling out. You know what I mean? Later on in those rounds, because you could tell, you know what I'm saying, with the mobility just wasn't there. So I was just getting, scared and nervous, like, nah, but I'm glad Mike lasted the entire 8 rounds though. Didn't get knocked out. It went the distance. So, at least we could say that. But other than that, I just, I wasn't really. I'm sorry.
I want to say this. I want to start off with a couple of things because I just think that the overall viewing public had the wrong perception of what this was going to be. First and foremost, I want to shout out Jake Paul and MVP Promotions because the card as a whole was really good. Shout out to Shushu. Right. Shout out to Shushu who had a great performance to open up the night. But the Amanda Serrano-Katie Taylor fight is probably going to be the fight of the year. Yes. And that was their second fight. And they're already said in the ring that they're probably going to do it a third time as well with 3-minute rounds. It was a phenomenal fight. I thought Serrano won the fight, especially with the point deduction. And then seeing the raw numbers after the fight, it was a little disappointing that it was a unanimous decision when she outlanded Katie Taylor by over 110 punches in the fight. But that fight was great. Mario Barrios against Ramos was a great fight. And overall, I think Jake Paul did a great job of promoting a major boxing event. Over 60 million people watched. Trip, you and I kind of did a pregame for the fight, and we said that probably was going to do record numbers in terms of viewership. The viewership was so crazy that Netflix crashed several times during the broadcast. So I want to start there. In terms of the fight, though, I tried to warn people, and I said it on Friday. Mike Tyson at 58 years old, without having a legitimate professional fight in almost 20 years. I don't know what people were expecting. I don't know what you thought you were going to see from Mike Tyson. He gassed out in the second round as I thought he would. He was breathing heavy, walking back to the corner at the second round. There's that meme floating around now where you see them pour the cold water on him. He kind of scrunched up his face like he's so uncomfortable at that moment. Mm-hmm. Like you said, the knee brace, he even stumbled a little bit going to the ring.
Oh, my goodness.
Right. There was the moment when he gets interviewed in the locker room and he doesn't realize he doesn't have any pants on. And he's basically double cheeked up on a Friday night on Netflix. Pause.
Assless chaps on?
Yeah, pause. I think all those things reminded us that Mike Tyson is 58 years old because those are the things that an older man forgets about. Like, oh, I'm supposed to have pants on right now. Where are my
Yeah.
pants? Oh, I shouldn't wear a knee brace out to the ring. This doesn't look right. You know what I'm saying? So I thought overall it was a success from what Jake Paul was trying to do as a businessman. The fight itself went the way I thought. And I know people, they're still saying, oh, it's rigged. Mike is 58 years old. He doesn't want to be in the ring. Let's call it what it is. Like at some point, Mike has been so disconnected from the fight aspect of the game, right? Yes, the IQ is there. But this is a man who is fully invested in his businesses, in his marijuana business, in his podcast space that he was doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's openly talked about changing his mentality as a man and trying to be there for his kids. And I thought that was great with the lead up that you saw he had his kids with him a lot of the time, and he was kind of bringing them into the world of the lead up for the fight. But mentally, people got to remember, when you're in that ring, you have to be a different type of animal. You have to be fully committed to that. That's not one of those things that you can kind of dabble in and out of and say, all right, well, this week, as Mike said, I'm going to be a killer, and next week I'm going to be civilized. You have to be a full-on killer all the time. And Mike Tyson is so removed from that he wasn't comfortable. It was done. The energy to fight wasn't there because that's not who he is anymore. And I thought Andre Ward did a great job on the telecast of even highlighting. He said, Jake Paul is carrying him a little bit here, because if Jake Paul really wanted to put his foot to the gas and embarrass him, he could have. And I think that was very admirable of Jake Paul to say, nah, I want to win, but I don't want to embarrass or disrespect a legend. And he took it light on him. And you saw even the last 30 seconds of the fight, he's not throwing punches. He's just bowing at Mike and thanking him for the opportunity.
Yeah. You gotta respect him for that. Shout out to Jake Paul, because what he was able to accomplish this weekend on Netflix is nothing short of amazing. It's very big for the sport of boxing. I think it's going to do a lot for the sport of boxing. Shout out to the ladies, because they had the fight of the night. You said it, Eric. They definitely had the fight of the night. One thing I wanted to talk to you about, I saw Clarissa Shields, and she was just talking about how, the men fighters have not just said, you know what, I'm tired of Jake Paul calling us out. Like, I'm just gonna get in the ring, show him he can't hang with us, and get it over with. And she was just like, if a YouTuber called me out to fight, we'd have been in the ring already. I'd have got him out of there, and that'd have been innovative. Like, what's up with, he's calling everybody out. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can tell you right now, the majority of boxers, and even some of your top boxers, aren't getting $20 million per fight. Maybe like the top 5. You know what I'm saying? Tank, Canelo, Crawford, you know what I'm saying? Those guys. But the majority aren't getting $20 million for one fight, right? So, I see, and I saw Tank and Jake Paul going back and forth a little bit. Obviously, I just don't think that would happen, because Jake Paul would not get to a size to where he could be in the same weight class as Gervonta Davis, or that just would never work out, no matter what. But yeah, I would like to see Terrence Crawford or Canelo just be like, you know what, or somebody of that stature. Let me go. I'll take this $20 million. Should I even take Ryan Garcia at this point? Get up in there.
Well, I think one of them will do it at some point. I think what Clarissa Shields is saying is true on the surface, but when you kind of look deeper into it, you realize why you wouldn't do it if you're a professional boxer. Because what do you gain from it, right? It's a lose-lose. Because if you're Canelo Alvarez, first of all, you're Canelo. I think, and Floyd said it, I think Canelo would kill Jake Paul in a fight. Literally, he might kill him with the punishment that he would hand out. But if he does it, what do people say? Oh, yeah, well, Canelo did what he was supposed to do. And if Jake Paul, even if Jake Paul doesn't win, let's say if he lands 2 or 3 good shots, people will be like, oh, look, Canelo's not as great. And that's what Jake Paul will hang his hat on. Similar to when Floyd fought McGregor. And McGregor had a couple good rounds early in the fight, and people treated it as like, oh, McGregor's a great boxer. And in the moment Floyd turned it on and put him out of there, Floyd doesn't get credit for it, because all people say is like, oh, it was a spectacle. He fought a guy who wasn't a boxer. So that's why I think a lot of these guys aren't really interested in doing it right now. But I think there will come a time, especially for Canelo and Terrence Crawford, because they're already into that mid to late 30s, where they may say, you know what, it's worth the payday. And it'll be worth more than $20 million for them, because they're still close enough to their prime that people would really pay for it. Netflix paid for this. right? The fans didn't have to pay for this, and that was the beauty in this promotion by Jake Paul. He brought a major boxing event into your home for free. Yeah. For a Canelo or Crawford fight, you're gonna have to pay for that. And I think, again, those guys would be interested in doing it once they know they're done with what they're doing now. Similar to when Floyd fought McGregor. Floyd was at the end of his career. He knew, I ain't got much left, but I'm going to put on a show for the fans. And it's going to be a major, major promo. And we're going to get a lot of money for it. And I think those guys would be interested in doing it. Some of the younger guys, it makes no sense because, again, you don't get anything from it. You're supposed to win. You're supposed to win in devastating fashion.
Yeah. And that's the thing, too, because, Mike Tyson has a name that would command a $20 million payday, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So here's the thing. If you have top tier fighters like a Canelo, you're going to have to pay them, top dollar. Yeah. Mid-tier fighters who you might be able to pay that, they're not going to be worth that price. So they're not going to command a $20 million fee. Like, the 10th man in the rankings, and was light. I guess with Jake Paul is light heavyweight, he's more of a cruiserweight. But for this fight, he got up to heavyweight, and he probably won't stay at heavyweight. If he were to fight Canelo, it probably would be like at super middleweight, 168, 170, weight that he'll be more comfortable at. And Canelo obviously is probably the greatest fighter at that weight as well. Yeah, that's what I mean. So it would be tough for. First of all, I don't think any of the cruiserweights right now would command that $20 million payday because they just don't have that type of notoriety. But you know what I'm saying, if they did, I mean, any one of those guys I feel like would destroy Jake Paul. Even if you look at Mike for like in that first round when he rocked Jake Paul, right? Imagine. Now you're talking about a seasoned boxer in their prime, who was an experienced ring veteran, who was a defensive fighter, who knows how to counterpunch. It will get ugly really fast for Jake Paul. The other part of it too is that Jake Paul is not going to put himself in harm's way, and what I mean by that is, even if he fights one of these guys, there are going to be stipulations that are going to help him get through the fight. For example, he's going to still want 2-minute rounds. He's still going to only want 8 rounds. He's going to want a bigger ring that's going to give him more room. He's going to want bigger gloves, as you saw like against Mike, right? Mm-hmm. All those things are going to help him survive the fight. He is going to lose. We know that. Yeah, but he'll survive the fight. And that's why I say for some of these fighters, there is no incentive because Jake Paul just surviving the fight would be a win for him. Like Floyd Mayweather was beating up on Logan Paul, but everybody said, but Logan Paul went the distance with him. Right, well, it becomes 30 pounds heavier than Floyd, though. Right, but nobody remembers that. The point that everybody made. Right, he didn't get knocked out, so it becomes this moral victory. So in turn, the established boxer still loses in the eye of public opinion because it's like knock him out. Right, unless you knock him out, and again, the negotiation is going to be structured in a way that helps tilt the favor so that Jake Paul has an opportunity to survive. That's what's going to end up happening. And but you get in the ring with Canelo, I don't care what stipulations you put in. Right. It's going to be night. Right. And Canelo going to do you worse than he did Amir Khan when he had Amir Khan damn near having a seizure in the middle of the ring. Yeah. And so I also want to say this too, right? Boxing fans are some of the most fickle fans in the world because I keep hearing guys like, and I have a lot of respect for Stephen A. Smith. But I keep hearing people say, oh, well, I want to see Jake Paul fight a real fighter. Why? Because you guys aren't going to tune in if he does. Let's call it what it is. If Jake Paul fought the number 10th ranked middleweight next weekend, how many people will really tune in, Trip? Because think about what you just said. That other guy doesn't have the star power to command your attention. Mm-hmm. So y'all wouldn't tune in. You guys are only tuning in because of the name power. The name recognition that goes with Jake Paul against Mike Tyson or Tyron Woodley or Anderson Silva, right? That's what you guys are right. You guys are tuning in because these are names that you recognize and it's easier to promote this fight. But when Jake Paul, after he fought Tommy Fury, which didn't do great pay-per-view numbers itself, when he fought another boxer, that didn't do great pay-per-view numbers. People didn't watch.
So let's stop pretending like we want Jake Paul to fight. We want Jake Paul to fight the names we recognize. When people really say, "Oh, we want him to fight a boxer," we're talking about Canelo. We're talking about Crawford. That's what we're talking about. Because if Jake Paul came out tomorrow and said, "Hey, I'm fighting the 10th or 15th ranked middleweight in the world," people be like, "Who?" Yeah. I don't want to see that fight. So why is he fighting him? Yeah, why is he fighting him? And that also leads to my point that I made last week, where this is why I know Jake Paul isn't legitimate in his claim of I want to be a world champion one day. Because if you want to be world champion, you got to take the long road. You got to fight 3 times a year. You got to fight the other up and comers. You got to build yourself up in the rankings, and then you get the title shot. You just can't come out and say, "Hey, I want a title shot right now," because there are a lot of young fighters who are taking the long road. You got to beat them to get in front of them in line.
It is what it is. Can we talk about the ladies?
Absolutely.
Was it robbery last Saturday night? Friday night? Was it robbery? Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano. Obviously, you mentioned the punching discrepancy. Discrepancy. Was Amanda Serrano robbed in that fight?
I think she was. I thought the headbutt, obviously was accidental. And the 2 rounds after that, Amanda Serrano, you could tell she was still adjusting. It was kind of hard to get a rhythm because then at another point, the cut is so big and so wide that the ref stops it so the doctor could look at it. So those 2 rounds after the cut, I did think she lost those rounds. But I thought from that point on, and I thought her cornerman made a great point of pointing this out when they spoke to him. All Katie Taylor was doing was leading in with her head and then trying to throw punches on the inside. To me, she wasn't dictating pace. She wasn't dictating the fight. I thought Amanda Serrano was not only dictating the fight, but landing a lot of the cleaner punches. And the numbers, I think, back that up. She was far more active. She threw 200 more punches than Katie Taylor. She landed over 110 more punches than Katie Taylor. So if we're going to say, well, Katie Taylor was a more accurate puncher, yeah, but she wasn't dictating the fight. Amanda Serrano was dictating the fight. Amanda Serrano was putting the pressure on her. And in turn, what Katie Taylor would do was dip her head down, lean up against her, and then try to fight on the inside. But to me, there was no skill in it. It was really just consistently leading in with your head and then trying to make it an ugly fight, where I thought Serrano was setting up punches better, landing cleaner punches, and engaging her in the middle of the ring more, where Katie Taylor was more than comfortable trying to just push her back into the ropes with her head and then hoping to make it an ugly fight. And for it to be a unanimous decision, I thought that was a bad decision, especially when you consider not only was the punch differential so significant, but then there was a point taken away. So I would like to know how they scored that round, because for it to be unanimous decision, that means y'all basically was saying she won 7 of those 10 rounds. She did not win 7 of those 10 rounds.
Yeah. So my only thing is where I would say I don't think it was some conspiracy type stuff, going against.
Not conspiracy.
No. But because not you, Eric, but I'm saying in general, because you know how people are gonna say, "Oh, it was 50%." But if it was the other way around, maybe I might feel that way. But I don't think Jake Paul is gonna put the fix in on a fighter that he represents. You know what I mean? So especially when Katie Taylor already won the first fight. You know what I'm saying? Like now, if she won the first fight, then maybe you could try to say, well, he wanted to get the trilogy going, and if the other one didn't win. So that's why I would say that. Now, I do feel like, obviously we know the punching discrepancy, but I'm going to give the judges a little bit of grace. And, because that cut above Amanda's eye was so bad, they could have been looking at the fight differently than the way we were looking at the fight, and kind of still basing it off of how crazy that cut, is looking. Every round we got to stop. She got to fix this. We got to tighten it up. So that could have influenced them, because you know how it is. Sometimes people might look at it as the amount of punishment that you've taken and say you lost the fight. And when you could possibly have won, but it's just that you look so bad and the other person don't look nowhere near as bad as you. Like literally there's like a hole over her eye. Like it looked crazy. So I'm gonna give them a little bit of grace and say, maybe it's based off of that, how bad that cut was, and her having to keep doctoring it up every round. So maybe they base it off of that. But other than that, I can't say, because if you're just talking about the discrepancy in punches, there's no way, at least not unanimous decision. And maybe a split decision, maybe. But again, that cut was pretty bad though.
That's my thing with it too. To say unanimous when she had a point deducted as well, because at the very least, even if you didn't think that Amanda Serrano was winning that round, then that becomes a 9-9 round. So now we're judging other 9 rounds of it, and to say unanimous, that means you're saying she won 5 of those other rounds and then had that round as well. Not even, she would have had to win 6 of those rounds. So that goes back to my point. You basically would be saying that she would have won 7 out of 10 rounds, and that's not the fight that I saw. I thought Amanda Serrano, I agreed a lot with the unofficial card, because I thought Serrano won 3 of the first 4 rounds of this fight before the cut. And then when the cut happened, like I said, those 2 rounds following that, Katie Taylor won those rounds, in my opinion. So now we're talking out of 6 rounds, I think it was 3-3 at the worst, really probably closer to 4-2 in Serrano's favor. Yeah. So that was my discrepancy with it. I thought, again, that her corner did a great job of highlighting that. And in the ring, they both talked about a third fight, even before the fight, because Amanda Serrano talked about that in the negotiations to this fight, that Katie Taylor's team was the one that pushed for 2-minute rounds. They didn't want to do 3-minute rounds. For whatever reason, I don't know if they felt that, the punishment that kind of got dished out in the first fight would be too much to do 3-minute rounds. Katie Taylor claimed that she knew nothing about that. I don't know how true that is as well, but Amanda Serrano brought that to her attention in their face-off, where she said, we asked for 3-minute rounds, and your camp didn't want that. You want the 2-minute rounds, so that's what we're doing. But I think in the next one, they're going to do 3-minute rounds. They may even do 12 rounds overall, because, again, that was another stipulation in this fight where they would only do 10 for whatever reason. But I think Amanda Serrano beat her, and I think she'll beat her in the third fight as well.
We don't have these problems when the GOAT get in the ring. I'm just putting it out.
Yeah.
Neither here nor there. Let's before we switch over really quick, big shout out to John Jones. Does it again. The only thing I wasn't feeling was he did the little Trump dance after he got the victory.
Right.
But that kind of spoiled it for me, because I always call him my cousin. You know what I'm saying? But other than that, I think he is. I think he's the GOAT when it comes to UFC. You know what I'm saying? I'm glad that he's been able to stay away from all the extracurricular activities that were causing him blips in his career. But again, right back on top of the game.
Yeah, he's the best fighter in MMA history. And Dana White may be right where he called him the greatest fighter ever. But definitely in MMA history, he's the greatest fighter. And I think he's at a point in his career. I know a lot of people will talk about the young man that they want to see him fight. But what he said is true. I'm at a point in my career where I want, I kind of want the biggest payday, and I want the most dangerous champions, not the most dangerous up-and-coming fighters. And he's earned that right, because he's dominated the sport for more than 10 years at this point. And that's one thing that I think the fans got to realize. You can't just keep wanting them to fight, who's the next guy, who's next. No, I'm at a point where I get to dictate my career now. I was the next guy at one point. I fought all the next guys. Now I want to dictate how the last couple of years of my career go. Yeah,
and he understands that Father Time waits for no man.
Yeah.
And, you said 10-year career. I don't know if John Jones got another 10 years in him. And right now we're at the peak of the money that's being generated by UFC, and that's being paid to the fighters. He is, maybe arguably the number one guy. So yeah, I'm going to capitalize off of what I've built in my career right now. No one can touch me, and I want to get paid, because eventually, I'd probably say maybe I'd say he can't fight for another 10 years. Who knows? Because MMA fighters do, I know, to stick around a little bit longer. But I want to get the big paydays now, so I can start setting myself up, making sure I'm good, my children are good for their lives. Let's get that generational wealth going on now while I'm the guy and I can dictate that type of money.
Absolutely.
All right, let's get into this NFL. Shout out to Tyson. Yeah, we got to talk about this one. Bills defeat the Chiefs 30-21. They improved to 9-2. Bills kind of dominated in this game. It was at home in Buffalo. But this was bad. I haven't seen it, the Chiefs look like this in a minute. I'm gonna say it's just a blip in the matrix just because it's the Chiefs, and I just can't, bet against Patrick Mahomes. So I'm sure they're gonna bounce back and finish the year strong. I did say last week if they wound up losing this game, I thought they would wind up finishing with about 3 losses. So we'll see how that goes. But what was your take on this game and the statement that Buffalo made?
I thought for Buffalo, this game meant way more to them than it did the Chiefs. When we talked about this on Friday night as well, we know who's been the biggest obstacle for the Bills in the playoffs, and that's been the Kansas City Chiefs. And Josh Allen, the graphic has been out there. He's the only quarterback to beat Patrick Mahomes 4 times, but he's never done it in the playoffs. Those are all regular season wins. This isn't the first time the Bills have won a regular season game at home. And I also think that watching this game, Trip, and maybe I'm just too I think too highly of Patrick Mahomes. I didn't feel like the Chiefs really played this game as if from a desperate standpoint the way the Bills did. Because when you look at Travis Kelce's numbers, Travis Kelce was damn near a non-factor. And we know come playoff time, Travis Kelce's probably good for 6 to 8 catches every game. But yesterday he had 2 catches and they really didn't get him involved. They seemed really like they wanted to get Worthy more involved and get him going next to Hopkins. The Chiefs defense, I thought was a little slow. I was surprised just a little bit by some of their pressure packages. I thought they would try to blitz Josh Allen a little bit more, especially knowing that they were a little banged up at receiver. But the Bills, to me, I just thought that they felt like they needed it more and they wanted it more. And it showed. They went for it on 4th down at the end of the game. They're up 2 points. If they kick the field goal, Sean McDermott knows I'm leaving time for Patrick Mahomes to go down there and win the game. And he coached it as if it was a playoff game. He went for it on 4th down. They scored a touchdown, and they end up winning by 9. And it changes the way that the overall outlook of the game goes. But remember, it was 23-21. If the Chiefs get a stop there, Mahomes has the ball with about 2 minutes to go in a situation that Bills fans have seen too many times. So I'm not worried about Kansas City at all. This was good for Buffalo. They needed this. We talked about it as well. They had that really bad loss to Baltimore earlier this year. They couldn't afford to lose to Kansas City if they had any hope of being a number 1 seed. So they get that. And for the Chiefs, even if they get to 3 losses, like you said, that means they'll be 14-3. They'll probably still be the number 1 seed. Everything will have to go through Arrowhead. And I promise you, they won't forget that they lost this game because Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, that's how they operate. They remember these things.
Yep, I agree. Is Detroit the best team in the NFL?
Yeah, and I said that a few weeks ago. They're the best team. They're the most complete team. They really can do anything they want on the field, and we saw that yesterday. St. Brown gets 2 touchdowns, 116 yards. Jared Goff throws for 4 touchdowns. Both running backs get involved. And really, the Lions are one of the few teams that there is no way to defend them. Now, there is a game plan to beat them. And I think as we get close to the playoffs, we'll talk more about that because I do believe there is a game plan to beat them. But to defend them, no. Because we've seen games like yesterday where they scored 52 points and Jared Goff goes crazy. And a couple of weeks ago, don't forget, when they scored 50-something points, I believe, on Tennessee, Jared Goff only threw for 85 yards. So they can really score points however they want to score points. They scored on their first 6 possessions yesterday. That game was over by the end of the first quarter. Trip. If you had them on a ticket, you felt good about the pick very early because you knew it was getting out of hand there. They covered the spread, which was 13.5, and they covered the over by themselves because the over was 48.5. They scored 52 on their own. They said, don't worry about it. We got you covered. So they're the best team in football, and barring any injury, they're going to be the NFC representative.
Let me hold on. I missed. There was like a 2-part question here that goes back to that Bills Chiefs game. Tyson says, "Is it fair to call Josh the best QB in the NFL right now?" I don't know who's calling him that just based off of 1 regular season game. I think the guy that was playing on the other side of the football field, and so further notice, best quarterback in the NFL. And I don't even have Josh Allen as being second. Maybe he might be tied for third, maybe, but I don't know about this. I don't know about first. I don't know about best QB in the NFL right now. Just no. We're not gonna do that. We're not gonna base this off one game.
My rebuttal to that would be: did you view him as the best quarterback before this game, or is this strictly a reaction to this game? Because when we talked about quarterbacks on Friday, we all said that Lamar should be the front runner for MVP.
Mm-hmm.
And I still think Mahomes is still the best quarterback. So if we're talking about Lamar's MVP and Lamar's MVP and Mahomes as the best quarterback, then that easily puts Josh at 3. Mm-hmm. And then if we want to really compare numbers, I think Joe Burrow's having a better year than him. I think Justin Herbert is having a better year than Josh Allen. And no disrespect to Josh, because he's having a good year for his team. But if you took away the name and just put up the numbers and the production, Joe Burrow is having an MVP caliber season. It's just that the Bengals as a team aren't playing well. Justin Herbert is having a really, really good year. It's just that, again, Buffalo is 9-2, whereas the Chargers are 7-3. So I don't have him as the best quarterback in the game. He's also got to win more in the playoffs. Let's call it what it is. Mahomes has his number in the playoffs, and the one time that him and Burrow faced off, Burrow went into Buffalo and they beat the ish out of him. So he can't be the best quarterback in football.
Yeah. Monday Night Football, we got about 30, 45 minutes to go. Texans, Cowboys, is there anything that we should be talking about with this one?
Well, they released a statement about an hour ago because a piece of the roof fell. So the stadium is literally falling apart. The sky is falling on the Dallas Cowboys. Their season is over. I expect the Texans to go in there and do their thing tonight. I'm interested. Maybe Micah Parsons will get on this podcast and actually talk about what's going on in Dallas, because he seems to talk about every other team, but he never seems to talk about his own team. I still don't know why the Cowboys have not put Dak Prescott on injured reserve. It's already been confirmed that the hamstring is a complete tear and that it's a 3 to 4 month recovery. And yet, for some reason, they're holding out hope as if he gets another opinion from a doctor, he'll play at some point this season. And play for what exactly is another thing.
Yeah, because you guys keep losing. They're most likely going to lose tonight. I got to get a quick ticket in before we get off the air. So for tonight's game, so I don't get it. But again, I am picking the Texans to win this game easily. Nico Collins is finally back. I think they're going to get back to business looking like more like what they looked like last season. But yeah, I got the Texans winning that one.
Yeah, so. I do too. Let's see if the game even starts on time. Like I said, because there's debris falling from the roof at AT&T Stadium.
Anything else?
Well, remember the other day, Jerry was mad that people were talking about the sun coming in. He said, well, maybe we should just tear the whole stadium down. Well, it sounds like you might have to if the roof – normally when you have a house and the roof is pretty bad, you got to make some major repairs and get a new roof in there. For a stadium, it's not as easy as just getting a new roof in, especially when that's a retractable dome. So there's going to be some issues there, but we'll see. I mean, let's hope they get this game in tonight. Hopefully it doesn't affect any of our tickets.
One more. I just want to talk division game. 49ers and Seahawks. Christian McCaffrey is back, but they do lose to the Seahawks. That division is very shaky. I would shaky at best. That division. Is there anyone that you feel like is really gonna take the lead? Because it's very close. And one game I believe separates everybody.
Yeah, I mean the Cardinals are 6-4 and everybody else is 5-5. I feel like the Rams are really good offensively, but defensively they're kind of hot and cold. The 49ers, it feels like it does kind of feel like the injuries are taking a toll on them, Trip. And I know they got McCaffrey back, but it just feels like they can't find a rhythm because they got so many guys that are always in and out of the lineup, and maybe that's what's going on there. Seattle's another team that it depends on the day of the week that you catch them. Sometimes Geno and those receivers look like, one of the best offenses. Then other times you see them and Geno's throwing 3 interceptions in the red zone. So everybody's pretty inconsistent. Really, the only team that's been consistent over the last month has been the Cardinals, who are on a 4-game winning streak and quietly taking control of the lead and then quietly develop something on offense, because We talked a lot about Marvin Harrison Jr., and even though he hasn't been as explosive as we thought, the offense as a whole has been better. James Conner has been really good. Trey McBride, the tight end, has been really good for them. And Kyler Murray, this is probably the most consistent football he's played in a long time. So as of right now, based off what I've seen off the last month, I think you got to have a little bit more confidence in Arizona as opposed to the other teams, because just they've been the most consistent, like I said, over the last month and a half.
Yeah. Shout out to Will Gordon in the building. What it
Shout
do,
out
baby?
Will. Shout out to my
Chargers
man Will. He recovering.
Listen, your Chargers won, and Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase got me, what I needed as far as fantasy football purposes. So I'm okay with that. Congratulations to your Chargers there, Will. They can win as many games as they want, unless they play one of my teams.
That was a great win by the Chargers. I highlighted a couple weeks ago saying this was going to be the toughest part of their schedule in terms of the quarterbacks they had to play. They jumped out to an early lead. The Bengals come back, and then Justin Herbert makes some plays to get them to win. It's a big, big win for the Chargers, and they get a big game next week against the Ravens.
Sir, that's the one where we're gonna be at odds, because we ain't losing them 2 in a row.
They get a primetime game against the Ravens. That's Monday night next week.
Yes, sir. Now that I'm looking forward to. Before we get out of the NFL talk, did Caleb take a step forward despite the loss? I mean, he's improving every week, I believe. You got to get the W's though. But I will say he is improving as he should. He's a rookie quarterback. He's learning as he goes. No matter how great you are in college, the NFL is still another level entirely. So yeah, it's gonna take some getting used to, some adjustments. I do think he is doing that. I think this is I would say the first 4 weeks of the season, as opposed to what we've seen these last 4 weeks. I think he's been getting a lot better. But again, you still have to win football games. You are in what is now probably taking the crown as the toughest division in football. We spoke about Detroit earlier. We know what Minnesota's out here doing. Obviously, you guys just lost to Green Bay, which you can't afford to lose those divisional games. And this was a very close game. But in order to take steps forward, you got to get the W's too. That's a part of that.
Yeah. I think he did take a step forward. And I watched the last quarter and a half of that game. He made some critical throws down the stretch to put them in position for what would have been a game-winning field goal, and then it got blocked. But in terms of overall, just his efficiency, it was the best game he's played in over a month. He threw for 231 yards. That was the best he had thrown since they beat Jacksonville over a month ago. He ran for 70 yards, which I think was a big part of his game that he needs to bring in. Last week, he got sacked 9 times, and that just can't happen to your rookie quarterback and to your franchise. This week, he only gets sacked 3 times, but that's because he trusted his legs a little bit more, and he runs for 70 yards. That also was his best rushing performance since that Jacksonville game over a month ago. So I thought in terms of, again, his efficiency and understanding, he could take the quick read. He was much more decisive with his throws. And then when the pressure came, he had no problem getting out of the pocket and running to extend the play. So I thought it was his best overall game. And it's not his fault that the kick got blocked. He put them in position to win the game, and you would think that you could get that win there. But overall, he did take a major step forward, Trip.
All right. Well, listen, I hope he continues to get better, because that division is going to continue to get tougher.
It's the best division of football. Everybody got 7 wins, which is crazy. The Packers are a third-place team, and they got 7 wins.
There you have it. Let's get to the NBA. Let me go to Brandon Chambers' question. Shout out to Brandon Chambers. How long can Warriors stay at the top of the West? It's been so many injuries. Shout out to Golden State, because they came out the gate smoking. Steph Curry was bouncing in and out, but I don't think anybody saw a 10-2 start in Golden State in first place at the beginning of the season. Shoot, I don't think anybody would have said the Lakers would have been in 4th place at this point in the season. There's a couple of teams. I don't think anybody would have said Houston would have been in 3rd in the season. You know what I mean? So, obviously you want those guys to stay healthy because you know what I'm saying that's how we're really going to get any type of idea of what they can really do when we get to the playoffs. But kudos to them, Steve Kerr. There was a little controversy over him sending was a Kuminga to the bench, maybe a week or so ago. But they keep on winning. They keep on doing it. The big win over Dallas when Steph hits the game winner after bringing them back. I mean, we know Golden State is legit. You got Steph Curry out there. I'm sorry. What do you expect from him, man? It is what it is. Shout out to Golden State.
I'll say this for the first part of that question. How long can the Warriors stay at top of the West? Not long. And that's not anything negative against them. But just when you look at the West, the difference between them and the 6th seed right now is only 3 games. One bad week is going to knock you out of that. The difference between them and the 4th seed is only 1.5 games. So if they lose 2 games in a row, they're going to be knocked out of the top spot. The injuries are an issue, and you want Steph to have the healthiest season he can have because he is everything for this team. Nobody else can fall in line as long as you have Steph, and he's what makes them dangerous. But in terms of it, to a further extent, Brandon, if you mean like how long could they be a top 4 seed in the West, I think there's an opportunity for them to be there because this is the first time I think that they've had actual depth off their bench with Buddy Hield, with Kuminga. They have something a little bit now off their bench that they can rely on that they never had in the past. So they can be a top 4 team if they continue to play this way and Steve Kerr continues to push the right buttons. But in terms of the top of the West, no, I expect them to slip down because OKC is too good. I think OKC is going to be the number 1 overall seed in the West, and OKC will have that top spot.
Man, I'm actually, I'm a little surprised that Minnesota is not higher than what they are. I kind of thought Minnesota would have been higher at this point in the season, but it is what it is. Hold on 1 second. Let me go. I see Will just dropped the question. Let me go here first, and I'm gonna get to your comment, Will. Cavs are undefeated, and I think has Boston in the next few games. Do they come out still undefeated, or Boston gets them? They played Boston twice. I think within like a 6-game span. The only problem is I may have, given them a chance, but the problem is the first game is in Boston. I think if they're still undefeated, I don't think they go into Boston and get that W. So I think that's where it would end. If they were at home playing Boston, I probably would give them a chance. But I think Boston probably would still be the favorite. But I'm going on the road. It was TD Garden. I don't see them getting that one. I think that's where the buck stops.
They going to Boston tomorrow night. The early line on that is Boston favored by 4.5 in TD Garden. Obviously, this is part of group play, so it does. If Boston wants to win the group play, of course, this does mean something. So I think Boston beats them as well. Boston hears all the chatter, and this is an opportunity for the Celtics to kind of remind the Cavs, who are right now at the top of the East, that, hey, it's still our conference.
We're the champs, right?
Yeah, we're the champs.
The champs.
We beat you in 5 games last year, right? Okay.
Yeah. So you can get happy about this regular season stuff. We're gonna win another chip. That's what we hit. But let me go to Will's comment. I know y'all think Cavs' success is sustainable, but I disagree wholeheartedly. Their roster is the perfect mix of old school position basketball with guards that can shoot. Atkinson coaches inside out. Atkinson is doing a great job.
Hold on.
Whatever.
No, I would say, did he mean to say unsustainable? Because I never said that I thought their success was sustainable. I've said all along I don't think they're a good playoff team.
Yeah, I think we both.
Because then he goes on to praise them. So I think he's taking the opposite stance of us.
Oh, he thinks that this is that the Cavs are going to keep winning.
Correct. That's what it sounds like because he said their roster is a perfect mix of old school position basketball. Yeah, he said autocorrect got me. Yeah.
Well, all right. Here's the thing, because we both said last week we kind of looked at the Cavs as one of those regular season teams. We see this every year. It happens every year. There's 2 or 3 teams that fly through the regular season, and come playoff time, they're out before the second round even starts. Cleveland is one of those teams. We don't look at Cleveland as a legitimate championship contender. We just don't. I'm sorry. I don't see them dethroning Boston in a 7-game series, no matter how good they look in the regular season. Because once again, during the regular season, you play everybody, and there's way more bad teams that are worse than the Cavs than there are teams that are better than the Cavs. So regular season success, you should be able to sustain that. The problem is you're going to get to the playoffs and you're not going to make it past the second round.
Yeah, like I said, and until proven otherwise, this is going to be my opinion on it. Regular season, they're going to look great night in, night out, right? You got Donovan Mitchell, you got Darius Garland, you got Mobley, you got Allen, you got LeVert coming off your bench. It's a good roster, and you got a good head coach in Kenny Atkinson. But the past 2 years, they've been a top 4, top 5 seed. So it's not like they weren't a good regular season team before Kenny Atkinson. They were a good regular season team already. When they lost to the Knicks a couple years ago, they were the number 4 seed, right? Last year, I believe they were the number 5 seed going into the playoffs. So they've been a good regular season team. My issue with their roster is that it becomes very difficult to play those two bigs with the way that some of the other teams in the East can play, specifically Boston, because we know Boston can do a 5-out offense when Porzingis and Horford either or is on the floor. And that's where it gets tricky for Jared Allen and Evan Mobley, because now you force those guys away from the basket. They don't get the opportunity to be as impactful on the boards. They don't get the opportunity to protect the paint the same way. I think the same thing would happen in the series against the Knicks. I think if Philly is healthy, the same thing would happen in the series against Philly, where these are teams that, because their bigs can shoot, your traditional bigs can't just roam in the paint and affect the game that way. And that's where it's going to get tricky for the Cavs. So did I think they were going to be 15-0? No. I'll be lying if I thought they were going to be 15-0.
Yeah.
But am I going to be surprised come March or April if the Cavs are a top 3 seed? No, I'm not going to be surprised. I'll be more surprised if they get out of the second round of the playoffs, because I don't think they're better than a second round team.
Yeah, I agree. Let me see who we got up here. So another question. Am I bugging right now? Hold on. I'm gonna come back to that. No, because I think Tyson had a comment. Yeah, well, we kind of went through it, but Cavs are undefeated, and I think has Boston in the next year. Yeah, so yeah, Boston will stop that streak. It is what it is. But shout out to the Cavs, because 15-0 ain't no joke. Not everybody can run off 15 straight. You always say, Eric, you can only play who's in front of you.
That's it. Yep.
And they've been beating everybody pretty much. So big shout out to the Cleveland Cavaliers and what they're doing. But you do need to translate that into some wins in the playoffs, and you have to, make it out of the first round. I just don't see them as a team that's constructed to make a deep run in the playoffs. So, but again, shout out to them. It is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on, let me check the. You know what? We kind of spoke about it last week. I do want to go back because I didn't actually get a chance to see everything with the shoe fight, but I do want to shout out again Bruce Carrington, who was also on that card, because the fight had come on early and it wasn't on the Netflix joint. So I do want to shout out Bruce Carrington again on getting the W. Did you see the meme, Eric, where it was saying how Jake Paul has more wins at the Cowboys Stadium than the Cowboys do this year? Was that accurate? Am I bugging?
No, because the Cowboys have not won a home game this year. That was one of the things that when we talked about after their last loss. They don't have a home win. So yeah, they're 0-4 at home. They're about to go 0-5.
Is that technically Bruce Carrington has
more wins
than
the Cowboys at AT&T Stadium.
All right. Well, listen, I'm not even mad about that. The Giants have finally, stood on business and they have benched everyone's favorite QB, Daniel Jones. I kind of would have preferred for them to just keep him in because again, we're tanking for Shador at this point. So I would have preferred they just keep him in at this point. But my main man, Tommy DeVito, is getting started. I made him. I got him as my backup to the backup on my franchise in Madden. But the Giants finally smartened up and said, "All right, enough is enough. Get all the money we just gave you. It's just not working out here. I'm sorry."
Yeah, this is New York. If you're a Giant fan, go on NFL Shop and start customizing the number 2 jersey with Sanders on the back. This is all about Shador. I guarantee you. Now, unless Brian Daboll thinks his job is on the line, and I don't think that's the case. I don't think Brian Daboll should be fired for this because I said from jump, Brian Daboll took over a flawed roster that was left behind, and Brian Daboll should not be punished for Daniel Jones. That was a quarterback he had to inherit. He should not be punished for that.
Yeah.
If I'm Brian Daboll, I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm calling 45 run plays the next game. I don't care about throwing the ball. I don't care if we score points. I don't care if it's 3rd and 13. Hand the ball off to Tyrone Tracy. Just get everybody out of here. Keep the clock running. In blowout games, Trip, when it comes running clock, just keep the clock running. Let's just get through these games. And we're tanking for Shador at this point.
I'm all for that because I got Tyrone Tracy in my in the league. So I'm all for that coaching adjustment you just made there.
I'm just telling you, if I'm the Giants, I am not doing anything than running the ball. I may throw the ball 10 times, maybe.
Well, I don't expect them with Tommy DeVito behind center to be throwing the ball 30 times anyway.
I'm not giving Tommy DeVito a chance to think he's a hero. I'm not giving him an opportunity to start throwing the ball to Malik Neighbors, and now Malik Neighbors starts going off, and people start wondering, like, maybe Tommy's the answer. No, he's not the fucking answer. Run. Trust me when I tell you. Just run the ball.
LIG, let it go.
Let it go. All right. The Giants are going to be underdogs in every game the rest of the season. But I'm going to tell you right now, because the Giants were in this position a few years ago when they started winning games in the last month of the season. Y'all got 2 winnable games on your schedule left, Trip. You got, after this week, you're going to lose to Tampa Bay. But then you got the Cowboys, who are tanking themselves. And then you got the Saints, who are also tanking. Then you got the Ravens, Falcons, and that game against the Eagles might mean nothing. If the Giants win more than 1 game the rest of the season, you guys are going to ruin your shot to land Shador. Brian Daboll, do yourself the favor. Just run the ball every possession. And then you might even tell Tyrone Tracy, if you happen to break through the line of scrimmage, don't be scared to just run out of bounds or slide. Don't worry about scoring a touchdown. Just get down.
Hold on. I need them touchdowns. And the fantasy purposes. Listen, they don't have to win, but just they can get 1 touchdown a game.
Remember a couple years ago when y'all could have lost to the Eagles at the end of the season, y'all decided to win a game that meant nothing, and it cost you an opportunity to draft a quarterback.
Yeah, it did. But I'm hoping for better things this year.
All right, I'm just telling you, if I'm Brian Daboll, I might start punting on 3rd down. Just punt the ball on 3rd down. I don't need Tommy DeVito thinking highly of himself and if somehow finding Malik Neighbors. Because Malik Neighbors ain't going to know how to shut it down. Malik Neighbors ain't going to be like, oh, I just quit. No, Malik Neighbors is going to try to get his numbers too.
Of course he is. He want to be. He's leading this draft as far as the wide receivers go. He's showed up the most this year. So I'm not surprised if he wants to go out there and ball out, get his rookie season numbers up because he was playing lights out even with having Daniel Jones as his quarterback.
Right.
So it is what it is. James Harden moves into 3rd place all time on the 3-pointers list.
Cool.
I'm sorry, say that again, Eric?
Cool.
Oh, okay. So big shout out to James Harden on that. And the Lakers are planning to honor Pat Riley with a statue. So everybody's getting their statues. Everybody's getting their flowers.
Hopefully, it's not the same people that did D Wade's.
Yeah, I don't know who's doing the design. It doesn't say who's doing the designs on that one. But
if Pat's statue looked good, I'm gonna question who the hell did D Wade's then, and why did y'all let them do that one?
Well, Wade was that was in Miami. This is LA, so they probably got two different statues.
True. You're right.
That's down south. This is West Coast. Like, come on, man. And they know how to make statues in LA. They got a couple of really nice statues of some legends that have retired. So they definitely know how to make a statue. I don't know what happened with the D Wade statue.
Yeah, you're right.
It is what it is. Before we get ready to start wrapping up, your Knicks are in action tonight. They're looking good versus the Washington Wizards. They're starting to pick it up. These last week and a half, they're starting to pick it up. I think they're finally starting to get into a good offensive chemistry.
Yeah.
We know it takes a little while sometimes to adjust to that because again, during the time that the trade was made, you still need some time to kind of build that chemistry. So I did think it was going to take a little bit of time for them to gel. But we're starting to see what the Knicks can be this season.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any issue with the starting five. We've seen that in yesterday's game against Brooklyn, the starting five, 3 of the starting 5 guys had at least 20 points. Mm-hmm. So that's not the issue. I think it's really more depth of the roster because obviously Mitch Robinson is going to be out, so it looks like late December, maybe early January. And Deuce McBride has been hurt right now. So those are 2 major parts of the bench for us. And tonight, I got to holler at Will because maybe he can speak to his people with the Wiz and we can make a trade happen. I really want Malcolm Brogdon. I do. I really want Malcolm Brogdon for our bench. I would love a veteran guard like that on our bench. And maybe we could find a veteran guard. I've said this for a few weeks now. I would either a veteran guard for our bench or if we could just find a shooter and then we can move Josh Hart to our bench. Because I think Josh Hart off our bench would be great with him. Yeah, with him, McBride, and then Mitch. Obviously, when Mitch comes back coming off the bench, that would fill out our roster a little better right now. But right now, we are top heavy because we have injuries to our bench. And we're playing guys who probably shouldn't be playing more than like 7 minutes, but we have no choice. But ultimately, the starting 5 is gelling. I think Karl-Anthony Towns has been phenomenal. For those that have been gambling out there, you should see it. Karl-Anthony Towns has damn near been a double-double every night. It's been one of the easiest bets. Yeah, it's been one of the easiest bets in all of basketball. He's been going off, and it's really been great for us because Jalen Brunson looks like he's a little rusty, almost like he's still recovering from the hand injury he had in the playoff. Mm-hmm. And Mikal Bridges has been great. Aside from opening night against Boston, Bridges has played much better. OG has played better. So the team is coming together. I'm okay with where we're at, and I think we're going to be a team that's going to be in the running to make a move for a guard or someone off our bench. Probably in another month.
Give us a final thought, Eric.
As always, man, shout out to all the supporters. We greatly appreciate it. Make sure you guys lock in on Friday night. Friday Night Live will be back. We got picks. This might be the last Friday Night Live for 2 weeks because next week with Thanksgiving, I might skip that one. I know there's going to be a lot going on, and that might be just the best week to take a week off. But tune in because we got picks. We got a lot of trash talk going on. And Trip, as always, you got the open invite. I'm hoping to have my brother Will Gordon back on there as well. He's recovering right there. So speedy recovery to Will Gordon. And again, man, just shout out to everybody, man. We greatly appreciate you guys.
I'm gonna use my final thought and I'm gonna shout out a couple of Yankees. Shout out to Louis Gill. Got the Rookie of the Year for the American League. And shout out to my main man, CC Sabathia, who is a Hall of Fame finalist right now, along with one of my other favorite players, Ichiro. So big shout out to those guys. With that being said, make sure you follow us on all our social media, Instagram, Twitter at Real Fan Talk, Facebook.com/Real Fans Real Talk. And of course, subscribe to that YouTube channel, YouTube.com/For the Fans Productions. If you're not in New York City and you can't watch us Thursday nights on Verizon 43, do not worry. Set up that website. realfansrealtalk.com. And you can click the red button on the homepage and watch them anywhere in the world. Make sure you guys subscribe to both the Real Fans Real Talk and the Sanchez Show podcast. We're streaming on all major platforms, so get your we out here moving units. With that being said, for myself, Trip Young, and my brother, my co-host, Eric Sanchez, aka Legend in 2 Games, we up out of here. Peace.
This is Deion Grant from the New York Giants, Super Bowl champ, and you're watching Real Fans Real Talk.
Live from the can. Vibe the king.
This is Real Fans Real Talk. Real fans, real talk. We as real as you thought. Real